What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about The Wolf Among Us 2 and the immense amount of pressure that there now is on this game. And this is partially a follow-up to the video I just did a few hours ago, the last video on the channel, talking about Telltale and, did they fire everybody on their team? Like, what in God's name is going on? They issued a statement, and it's exactly what we said, they had to do. Now, they were transparent, but they also kind of weren't. So we got the transparency part with future projects, right? Future projects are still happening. There's no change in that, meaning no cancellation. So thank the Lord above, Wolf Among Us 2, at least from what they say. And I mean, you have the right to trust or not trust them as much as you want to. I'm going to trust at least that part of it, that I think Wolf Among Us is safe and they're going to do everything possible, I think, to get that game out the door. And I'll tell you why. And it's also why there is so much resting on this game. And it's somewhat unfair pressure. It's some pressure maybe they just did to themselves. Everything rests on The Wolf Among Us 2. I firmly believe, from Telltale, if The Wolf Among Us 2 comes out and it is not a good game, whether it's critically, like, if I would even argue, if it's a divisive, like, very, very mixed game, that's not a good look. But more importantly, most likely, is sales, right? If this game does not sell well, and well meaning, I don't know, honestly, it actually depends on what Telltale thinks well is. If it doesn't sell to their expectations, I know this is maybe jumping the gun, but I'm going to say it because I honestly believe it. I think they're done. I firmly believe, sitting here right now on October 5th, that if Wolf Among Us 2 comes out and it doesn't sell well, Telltale goes away once again. Like, it's just part two to the first time. Maybe not through bankruptcy, but maybe just through, we can't do it. Like, we're out. And again, like, whose fault is that? Well, I gotta believe this has something to do with The Expanse. And I know they didn't say that, but at the same time, there's not much that's been said, because here's what we know. We know that the employee had said, hey, they fired like most of us. Then Telltale comes out and says, okay, well, again, the transparency part was future games are unaffected. The non-transparent part was due to market conditions, which in my opinion means a couple things we'll talk about. They had to let people go. So, well, how many people? And that's the part where that is not transparency. Now, do I expect them to come out and say, well, we fired, 37 people? Well, to be honest with you, everybody else kind of does. Like, there was the report from Naughty Dog that it was 25. Epic was like, 600 or whatever the heck it was. Like, you'd actually do normally get numbers. Now, whether those are like rumors or whether the company kind of comes out and says it, I'd like to know over the next few days, and I hope we kind of figure this out, not to see like how many people no longer have jobs. Like, that's cruel, and I wish the best of these people. I think they're probably very talented people. I got a lot of trust in the Wolf Among Us 2 team at Telltale, but I just want to know, like, how many people? Was it half the team that's working on the Wolf Among Us? Was it 60%, 30%, 20%? Because it does seem like the guy wasn't telling the truth, and whether he knows it or not, right? I just don't know how the game can be completely unaffected, and again, whether you believe that or not. But at the same time, most of Telltale is completely gone. Something's wrong there. It's maybe somewhere like right in the middle. But in terms of the main topic here that I talked about a little bit and then kind of walked away from by accident, The Wolf Among Us 2, okay? The immense pressure. So I do believe it all rests on this game. You look at The Expanse, and The Expanse was headed mainly by Deck 9, although Telltale published it. And it really, the thing that sucks with The Expanse is it was kind of formally said that this is like the return of Telltale. Like, that was on everything that you saw of this game as Telltale's first game, even though, or first game back, right? They've returned. Even though Deck 9, I think, did most of the creative work. It was more about Telltale maybe getting the rights, Telltale publishing it. Really, The Wolf Among, and I mean, I've always believed this, or I've always kind of kept this in my head. Well, Wolf Among Us is Telltale's return. And I said this in the last video, right? Wolf Among Us is Telltale. It used to be Walking Dead, and people still say that, sure. But when you think of the current state of Telltale, it's Wolf Among Us, and that's it. We don't know what comes after. We don't know the IPs or if they're even doing it. Now, because they say projects, clearly they are doing something beyond just Wolf Among Us, which is cool. In fact, that's maybe a game announcement in a weird way. They actually said it. But right now, it's not Batman. It's not Walking Dead. It's not Minecraft Story Mode. It's not any of those games. It's The Wolf Among Us. That's the game that's coming out completely from them. There's no co-development, anything to kind of like shift blame or whatever you want to say. This is all Telltale. So if this game comes out and it's their thing and it doesn't sell well, how in God's name do you stay around after it? And the reason I guess I'm being so direct is like, well, they're already showing signs of kind of weakness or like they're making some mistake. I love this company, the legacy of the company, so much. We've talked about it. Walking Dead, an incredible. I actually really like Minecraft Story Mode. Wolf Among Us is one of my all-time favorites as well. I want these people to do well. I want them back. I want them at their peak like they were 10, 12 years ago, okay? That's what I want. I really do want that. At the same time, I haven't seen it yet. Like, that's the sorry thing that I feel like I'm maybe more bluntly kind of honest than other people on YouTube. They haven't proven it. The Expanse, and I didn't actually finish The Expanse. I played the first 3 episodes. It's fine. It's not, I would say, good. It's not great. It's not amazing. That's my opinion, but it's not terrible. But it's just in that, it came out, it released, and I don't know how many people played it, and maybe that's the issue. See, something had to have happened to make them fire anybody, right? Like, they said market conditions. So, like, did they look at The Expanse and say, ooh, that did not do nearly as well as we thought? And again, this cycles back to the main topic, the title of this video. The thing is Wolf Among Us. The Expanse was, okay, we're doing this kind of with them, and it's kind of our return, but Deck 9's doing it too, so it's not fully us, and it's not as well known in the gaming landscape. I know TV show, but gaming, it's not as well known as the Wolf Among Us. Wolf Among Us is our thing. Everything rests on this game. And again, let me say it one last time. If Wolf Among Us 2 comes out and it does not sell well, I do believe it's game over. And I think that would be exaggerating. That would be kind of jumping too far. And, you know, Alex, you're going so great. Like, I would actually agree with that if they didn't do what they did today. If they didn't already fire people because seemingly they can't keep it all together. If that didn't happen, then I think I would be exaggerating, because you could argue if one game would really be a make or break. But considering they're already showing signs of like cracks, and it's like, okay, well, is Wolf Among Us even going to come out? Like, there was that question for a few hours, and even though they made the announcement, people are still not really sure. People, I think, overwhelmingly online are saying, well, hopefully Wolf Among Us comes out, but that's not even guaranteed, I would say, anymore. So on top of that, game needs to release. That's the first most important thing. In fact, now I'd kind of like some updates on Wolf just to make sure everything's okay there. But then when it does come out, oh boy. I'm not saying like it needs to reach like an 89. I don't care about the score. Okay, it doesn't need to get an 89 or a 9. It doesn't need to break the 90, ceiling, anything like that. Be a good game. I mean, personally for me, obviously, I'm going to have some high expectations, as I think many of the fans do, because we've been waiting so long and popular franchise, but also it needs to sell. People need to buy this thing because people, and I'm not saying like that's on us. It's on them to deliver a good product. Then it's on us to buy it. That's how this works, in my opinion. So hopefully it does well, because if it doesn't do well, sales, making money, I don't see how Telltale makes it past 2024. And yeah, that's an exaggeration maybe, but I think today kind of shows, and as we've seen over the past couple of weeks, there's some bad stuff happening in the gaming industry. One game can make or break. Saints Row, Embracer Group just in general falling apart. The Last of Us, multiplayer resulting in people getting laid off. Like, there are a lot of examples recently of one game being the deciding factor of like the entire team. So we'll see what happens. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.